So what we're going to do is just talk to the queen of creative financing, Idalis, who has done numerous creative financing deals in her lifetime, subject to novations, wholesaling. And what we're going to do is learn from her how to do that. So if you're an agent out there and you're figuring out, hey, my only tool in my arsenal is to list property and that's it, you're behind. I've known you for I guess 5-6 years now, but everybody doesn't know who you are. So let's talk about this. How, give me your beginnings and your forays into real estate. How did you get into creative financing and using investing as your primary source of income?
Yeah, cool. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm a real estate professional in the South Florida market. So I'm an investor and a real estate agent. So I'm one of those like unicorns that do both and understand both. I started off as an agent, as a buyer's agent. It's actually interesting because I started off with a company that was very investment focused back in the day, back when you could get a lot of deals on the MLS. The market was really, really hot. And their strategy was just getting deals on the MLS from agents.
Yeah.
And I was always attracted to investing. But in that moment, I didn't give it the time that it needed. And then I started getting buyers and referrals, and my business started growing on the residential side. And I just kind of went with the flow. But my heart was always in investing. And then it took me 5 years, like 5-6 years to find my way back to investing. I did buy some buy and hold properties like in between, like scattered, but I didn't really shift my focus to investing until like the last, I would say like 4 years. And then since then, I've been doing more investing. I would say my business right now is like a good amount of investing and then a small amount of like residential still. So I would say like 70-30, transitioning slowly to 80-20. And the reason why we're doing residential now is because it all feeds into our investment business. Whatever opportunities don't fit our cash model or our creative model, goes into the listing bucket. So we're able to grow both sides of the business. So, I mean, it works either way. And I think I'm going to hit the 10-year mark. So I think when I hit 10 years, I'll do like a celebration of like being in real estate for a decade. I was a baby when I started. I'm still a baby, but babyer.
When you started, you were in residential. You were doing purely residential real estate, and that was your skill set. And then something kind of, you forayed over into the investment side. So like, I guess, why creative instead of just sticking with traditional, like, the average agent who does buyers and sellers? Why creative? What drew you to really learning it and wanting to know about it? Because that's your primary source of income now. It's not listing property.
Yeah. So there was this ad. I'm kidding. Do you remember how we all hear those ads on the radio?
Sure.
I had built relationships with other investors, and I actually went to one of those like weekend masterminds that you go to. Not the one we hear like all the ads for, just one that for someone that I've been following for a while. And that kind of lit up my interest again in investing. So whenever they were talking, they did a presentation talking about subject to, taking over property subject to, seller finance, doing all these things that seem so intricate for me. And then my mind, I was like, damn, how are they doing this? How are they doing these deals in this way? And I think that sparked my interest. And I went and I got fired up. It was in Dallas, I remember. And then I came back and I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get into investing. And then I did it for like 2 months. And then I went back to what I was doing.
Okay.
Like we all do, right? Like we all go to this events, like whether it's Tony Robbins, and then we're like, this is great. And then you get pumped and then you go back and like reality hits and you get busy. So it took me I think another year to like really dive into it. And I started doing marketing and ads. What really got me really serious about investing is once I put money behind the business. Because it was just me just doing a couple calls. It was a lot easier for me to say like, hey, you know what? I'm busy on this side of my business. Let me stop this. But once there's money attached to it, then it's like, it's grind time. How can I close these deals? Because now it's costing me something.
Yes.
So the investment more than anything. And then I got like that initial spark from going to that event and just seeing that it was possible, that other people were doing it.
When would subject to and seller financing be applicable for like a seller, if you're talking to a seller?
So Subject to and seller finance, I want to start off by giving people like a definition of what each one is. Seller finance, I think, is more known in the real estate space, and people generally understand it. Essentially, the seller is financing the property, the purchase, essentially. So instead of going to like a bank like Wells Fargo, Chase, let's say you're the seller in this instance, you're giving me the loan. Now I'm gonna become the owner now, and what I tell the sellers when I do my presentation is now you're upgraded to the bank. Now you have a note, it's a secured note, I'm paying you every single month. I may or may not give you a down payment, I may or may not give you interest rate, and you could get really creative with it. You could do down payment, interest rate, no interest rate, and it depends on the goal of each person. Like with seller finance, let's say you're someone that has owned many properties for a really long period of time, and you want to avoid capital gains, and you know that if you sell your property as an investor, you're going to have a big bill coming up. I can probably present, Daniel, to you an opportunity. Hey, how do we fix this problem of you having to pay a lot of money to the IRS? It's what if we just spread that out through a period of 10 years, 15 years, and you seller finance to me? Now you still pay taxes on it, but you avoid that big lump sum. So it could be for someone like that there's like a tax benefit. Someone that doesn't need the money right now, like if there is no end game with the money, like, hey, look, I don't need the money to buy another property, like I'm okay. Or someone that is already a landlord and understands the process of getting cash flow every month, but is tired of dealing with the tenant. What if we could flip that and keep you at that same monthly cash flow, but now you're upgraded to the bank? You don't have to deal with toilets. So that's like your ideal seller finance. And there's like a bunch of people that are retiring that don't need the money and just want steady cash flow, landlords that already are landlords and just don't want to deal with the headaches, someone that doesn't need the money, someone that wants tax benefits. But essentially anybody could qualify for seller finance. Our ideal prospect is someone that has a property paid off if we're just structuring a seller finance note. There's absolutely no loans on the property. It's a paid off property. So when you think seller finance, think paid off. Subject to is just the name of the type of transaction that we're doing. So essentially we're buying a property subject to the existing mortgage. What that means is we're keeping the current mortgage in place and we're transferring ownership. So we're keeping the loan, we're transferring ownership, and the loan is going to stay under the past seller's name. So just to make it simple, you're the owner, you have a loan for $400K. I'm buying your house at 123 Main Street. By me taking over the property, buying it subject to, I'm going to keep that mortgage for $400K for 123 Main Street. But now I'm going to become the owner on the property. So we're keeping that mortgage in place.
But why would you do so? Two questions, and I'm sure people out there are thinking something along these lines. Number one, how is that possible to keep someone's mortgage but you still buy the property? And number two, when would that be? Like when would something like this be? Like when would that make sense for me to present that to a seller?
Yeah, so it works for any type of seller, because I don't want to give people limitations, but like the ideal prospect, especially in this market, is a property with no equity. So if there's no equity as an agent, if you're sitting there with your seller and you're having that tough conversation of, hey, in order for you to sell the house, you have to bring money to closing and you have to pay, 6% commission plus closing costs. That's a lot of money. So then the seller is having to tell you, look, I don't have the money or I don't want to pay that. And if that's what needs to happen, I can't sell. So someone that's in that type of situation with no equity, this really is the only solution that they have, is subject to. So that's one scenario.
Okay. So does the interest rate on the loan that they have come into play with this?
Exactly. So if we're looking at it from why someone would do subject to, one is that there's no equity on the property, or there's very little equity where it doesn't make sense. Another one is someone that's behind on their payments. It's a great solution for someone that's in pre-foreclosure, because a new buyer would come in and bring those payments current. So it's going to give them a positive boost on their credit and help them save the property. And then it's also going to be a good solution on the buyer, because the buyer is taking advantage, hopefully, of a low interest rate or a property that they can turn around and cash flow. My mind has shifted and I think like an investor. So we always look for the opportunity. But a lot of times as agents, we're hyper focused on the commission and how can we get a commission on the deal. So we're blind to the other opportunities. I'll give you an example. Like I have agents that are like, look, I went to an appointment and it was a great deal for a fix and flip, but like they didn't want to list it. And then I'm like, okay, so why didn't you buy it? Like, why not you move forward and purchase that property and do the deal? Oh, I don't know, because I was just focused on getting the listing. So the getting the listing is what keeps us a lot of times from doing more deals and making more money. Instead of getting the listing, is how can we become more solution oriented and get really good at figuring out the situation and what the seller needs, and then getting really good at recognizing all the different ways that we can add value. And subject to, if you're meeting with a seller, you realize maybe it's a no equity situation where you can come in and buy the property and take it over. Subject to, if building a portfolio is a goal that you have, what a lot of agents think is I have to go sell a lot of houses, get a lot of commissions to then put X% down to buy my first rental property. When in reality, your first rental property is probably one of the next like 4 or 5 appointments that you're going to go on, but you're too blind to see it. I wanted Danny to talk about hybrid deals, which is where we combine, just because I want to leave people with like all the tools, because I don't want them to just think it's subject to or seller finance. You can actually combine both. So
yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So once you guys understand acquisition strategies, which is how you acquire property, which is subject to and seller finance, then you can actually combine both, which is great. So you can actually, with a property, let's use the same example. Mortgage is 400K, but let's say the property is worth 600K. So 400K is the loan, 200 is the equity essentially. So what I can do is I can present to you, Daniel, hey, Daniel, I'm going to buy your house at 600K, take over the payments on that 400K loan, and then I'm going to give you additional payments for the equity. So you could structure a seller finance note on the equity. And now we're combining both strategies. So now we're doing what we call hybrid.
Wow. All right, hang on. So that's in depth. So guys, everybody who's watching, drop in the comments if you understood what Ideli said, or if you want her to elaborate more on this. We call this a wrap?
It's a hybrid, yeah.
A hybrid.
We could do a whole nother conversation about reps. I don't want to confuse people because there's acquisition, which is how you acquire the property. And then there's dispositions, which is how you sell the property or what you do on the back end. And a wrap is a disposition strategy. It's what you do once you actually own the property, what you do on the back end. So we're just talking today about how to acquire a deal. We could have like another session about like what you do with the deal once you have it. But I don't want to blow people.
I know. This is a lot of info. So this is great. So everybody who's watching and listening, drop in the comments if this has been helpful, and if you want Ideli and I to do another talk about what did you how to exit this. You talking exit
strategies? Yeah. Exit.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know if you guys want to talk about that, because we will, if you guys are really finding this information powerful. So basically what you're saying is, and to get back to the point, and we'll see what people say in the comments, you're taking what the seller has and from the first loan, we're taking that over and then doing another loan on top. Yeah. And there's a spread between the two.
So what you're doing, and there's different ways to structure it. So you can do zero money down on that equity. What we're essentially doing is, this is a different type of seller, right? Because we talked about who qualifies for seller finance, who qualifies for a subject to deal. Let's say that the seller wants 600K and 600K is a number that works for you. We can actually give them 600K creatively, and we can do it by, hey, Mr. Seller, what if I could take over the payments on your current mortgage, and that equity, the difference of the equity, I can actually give it to you in payments. So we would do seller finance. So it's the full 600, 200 is the equity, is seller finance, 400 is the loan that you're taking over. And that type of seller, like that strategy works for someone that's like, hey, I just want 600K. That could even, you can give them market value as long as the numbers work for you. And when you think about someone that wants to go on the market, if the house is truly worth 600K, they're never going to really make 600K. Sure. 600 is their perceived equity. Their real equity is 600 minus commissions, minus closing costs. So it's a good kind of presentation for someone that like, I want this certain number, and you know you can make that number work. Yeah. What if I could give you your true 600K and we could do it in this way? So it's just another tool in your tool belt.
If you see a seller and you're across from them, and you know that one way is going to be better for them than the other, you know, how do you navigate that conversation? Like, you know that listing's not going to work, but they may be kind of set on that, or you think that this way wouldn't work and you know this way would. What's your way of navigating that?
Yeah, and that's the tough conversation as like a salesperson, because we always want them to, even though we say we can detach from it, we never really do, because we always think like this is best for them, but we can't really tell anyone anything. All we can do is, That's why the motivation and time frame questions are really important, because one thing that I do in my negotiations is I'll bring back what they said was important for them. So let's say they want to list it, but I know they need to sell it in 30 days. That's where I would bring back that information that I gathered. And I would say, like, hey, look, I know you want this certain number. In order for you to get that certain number, this is the direction you have to take. We have to go on the market. We have to market the property, wait for a finance buyer to come in. And this is how long this is going to take. Now, you mentioned time was really important for you. What is more important for you? Is it getting this done in this time frame? Or is it like you really need that number and you want that, right? Because you mentioned time was important. If time is what's important and you need to close quickly, then we need to bring it back to this option, because this is going to be the best one. And that's all you can do, right? Just kind of use what they gave you to try to get them to self-reflect on why it may or may not be the best choice. We can't tell them. Right. It's always like they got to see it for themselves. That's like the hard thing. Sometimes I'm like, no, this is.
Yes. If there's something you want to hear about, you can drop in the comments. Let me know. Let Idalis know when you reach out to her, and we'll make that the subject next time. Yeah. So awesome. This was great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And all right, guys, we're going to hit you next time.
Appreciate you, Daniel.
See ya.
Bye.